This is a Louie T Network exclusive.
Hey, either you're outside or you're
in the lab room.
Draft Zone.
Who else could it be? Me, your man, Louie T. Welcome. You are in the lab room, of course. I'm your host, Lou. Thank you for joining me on the 2016 NFL Draft Wrap-Up Series, a program where I, your man, Louie T, aims to break down all 32 teams in the National Football League's 2016 NFL Draft. And by doing so, we'll be looking at each and every single team, breaking down their draft using our baseball grading scale: single, double, triple, home run. There are no strikeouts here in the Draft Wrap-Up Series. You cannot tell how any of these players are going to pan out, and I don't want to discount any of these young men before they get their chance in the National Football League. And so, each and every single player in that team's draft will get a grade. Using our baseball grading scale, we'll come up with an aggregate score, divide by the number of picks, and that's how that team will receive their final grade for their draft. We'll then move on to the next team in the process, picked by you. That's right, you, the viewers out there, will have the final say as to who will be next in the series by simply being the first, not the second, not the third, not the 33rd person, but the first person to comment in the comment section with two items: the team that they want to see next and the phrase next itself. So next and the team you want to see next, don't care how you word it, as long as those two components are in the comment section and you're first, that team will be up next in the process. And so, without any further ado, it's on. San Diego Chargers are up. San Diego Superchargers up next on the docket, courtesy of your man, Mock Draft Central. So, we're going to jump into the Chargers 2016 NFL Draft. Whoever's first will have the next team up and available, and then we'll go from there. So, without any further ado, let's get to the 2016 NFL Draft of the San Diego Superchargers. We start in the first round, third overall selection. This was a surprise to many, including myself. Ohio State, the Ohio State University defensive end / outside linebacker, Joey Bosa. This was a pick that not many people saw coming, including myself. Again, huge curveball, probably the first curveball of many to come in this draft. And you can never have too many pass rushers in this league. A lot of people think that Joey Bosa is either going to be a home run or he's going to be a bust in this league. I think he's going to be somewhere in between. I really think that his skill set is unique because he comes to the NFL already with a number of things that you don't see from a college player. Not going to break him down, of course. I've already done that in the Draft Prospects 101 series, but I will say this. His ability to use his hands and be a technician is elite already coming out of the college ranks, and you don't see that every day. His hand usage may be the best I've seen out of a defensive end coming out of the collegiate ranks in quite some time. I mean, his hand usage is elite already. And I think there are a lot of things he's going to bring to the table that the San Diego Chargers currently lack up front. Their front seven to me is already pretty stout, and they're getting a lot better here with this selection. And so I think they've done some things to really make this team better, and I think this is one of them here in the first round with the selection of defensive end Joey Bosa. Kind of anxious to see how they're going to utilize him. Are they going to allow him to put his hand in the dirt? I think you're going to see a lot of nickel sets with him with his hand in the dirt, but you're also going to see him standing up in a two-point stance, rushing off the edge as well in their 3-4 defense. So we'll see how they decide to utilize him. Love to see him go after the quarterback and less dropping for him, but we'll see what happens in any event. In the first round, third overall selection, defensive end / outside linebacker out of the Ohio State University, Joey Bosa is a no doubt about it. You can put it on the board. Yes, it's a home run in the first round for the San Diego Chargers as they get their man at number 3, Joey Bosa. You go to the second round, I thought was an even more interesting pick. 35th overall, Arkansas tight end Hunter Henry is the selection. This to me was a great pickup by Tom Telesco, GM of the San Diego Chargers, because here's a situation where you still got Phillip Rivers playing at a relatively high level. No more Ladarius Green. He moved on to the Pittsburgh Steelers in the offseason. You got probably the last year of Antonio Gates, the OG 85, going into the twilight of his career. Didn't want to go out a loser like last year, and so I think he's going to play one more season in San Diego. There needs to be an heir apparent to that throne. I think that man now is Hunter Henry. Thought all along it was going to be Ladarius Green. He moved on to greener pastures. And so now you get the best tight end, without any doubt, in this draft, the most complete tight end for sure, in Hunter Henry, a guy that can not only block and catch the football. In a day and age where tight ends in college aren't asked to block any longer, you get a guy that actually played in a pro-style offense up at Arkansas under Brett Bielema. And so he's going to come in. Not only is he going to help you in an area that you struggled last year, because Ladarius Green nor Antonio Gates are supremely gifted blockers. This not only is he going to help Melvin Gordon III in the run game, but he's also going to become a fixture in the passing game and a security blanket for Phillip Rivers. And so this is a great pickup in the second round, getting the best player at that position in this draft in Hunter Henry. It's back-to-back jacks for the San Diego Chargers in the first two rounds as their second round pick, 35th overall selection, tight end out of Arkansas. Hunter Henry is a hit hard, hit deep, out of here home run in the second round for the San Diego Chargers as they go back-to-back jacks to start off their draft in 2016. You move on to their third round pick, 66th overall, USC center Max Turk. This is a guy that I talked about a lot throughout the process, and about how this guy coming off of an injury could be a steal for some team in this draft. We'll see what he ends up being and how he responds coming off of that injury. Let's talk about the player Max Turk is. 6'5", 298 pounds, big, long athlete. And that's where I start. He's a wonderful athlete. I mean, you look at this guy and the way he's proportioned, and you say to yourself, man, this guy can pick him up and put him down. And so he's tremendous out of space. That's the next pro. Mike Mayock actually said that this guy is one of the best pulling centers he's ever seen in his life. And that's saying a lot. And I tend to agree with Mike, man. When you watch this guy get outside on the edge, he is so graceful. It's easy. He gets out there, and this is the beauty of it. He's not one of these guys who just gets out in front and he's just running and he's not looking to hit anybody. He's just out in the way. No, let's go to the next pro, because I think this is what sets him apart. He's a seek and destroy offensive lineman. He gets out in space and he's running and he's motoring 20 yards down the field. He's looking to clobber and clean up somebody's safety. He's looking to take that linebacker and put him on his back. He's looking to devour that cornerback. And so I like this guy out in space. He's a seek and destroy center. And you know that in this league, athletic linemen can get up the field and help you win 20, 30 yards down the field. It is a big pro and a plus for you, and this is the type of center that can do that. Great length. I talked about 6'5", again, and this is a guy that played primarily center at USC, but played a number of different positions. And his length at 6'5", once you hear that kind of height, you're expecting great length, and that's what Max Turk has. And so I think that's something that he also brings to the table. Versatility is something else that you gotta love about Max Turk. Here's a guy that played every position on the offensive line and started at USC at every position on the offensive line, with the exception of right guard. He started at every single position, a number of starts at left tackle, number of starts at right tackle, a majority of his starts at center, and also at left guard. So this guy is very versatile. You love a player that can play anywhere on the offensive line. It gives you a type of flexibility that few players bring to the league, because not everyone can play left tackle, has the length and the size to play left tackle, but still kick inside and play not only both guard positions, but also be able to play center, which is a very hard position to play because of all of the smarts that is necessary, all of the line calls and all of those things. So you get a lot here in the package that is Max Turk. Good snap to set quickness, and that's key for a center. Not only do you need to be smart, which Max Turk is, you also need to be able to snap that football, get your head up, and get ready to block, because a lot is going on at the line of scrimmage, and he does a really good job of snapping that football, getting in his stance, and getting ready to block and protect the quarterback. Good power step and pivot. And so what that helps him do is when he snaps the football, that first step is here. It's a powerful step. It's a turn and pivot, and he's able to seal, because a lot of times with those quick hitting plays up the middle, the center is the key to kicking out that defensive lineman or that linebacker, getting that double team, and then getting up to that next level and getting to that linebacker. So that power step and pivot is key to walling off and sealing off defenders. And I think that Max Turk does a really good job of that, taking that first initial step, that power step, turning his body, generating some power and some movement, and sealing off and walling off defenders and giving the ball carrier some space to operate. His cons: could stand to add a few pounds. This is a guy that played at USC for the bulk of his career at 285, which allowed him to be that athletically gifted guy that can get out on the edge and run and pull. And so I think he could stand to gain some weight. Now, right now he's listed at 298. He's coming off of an injury. We'll talk about that here in a second, but we'll see if he's able to pick up a few more pounds, because in this league, you gotta be able to be physical down in the trenches. And just about every defensive lineman and nose tackle and three tech you're gonna see is gonna be up over 300 pounds. You're gonna have to be able to stand up to some of the strongest guys, not only in this game, but in the world. These guys are physical beasts. Got to be able to stand up to them in the run game, in the pass game. So we'll see if he's able to be strong enough, physical enough in the trenches at 298 pounds. And I think he's going to probably add some more weight, which would be very beneficial to him, because right now I think he's a little bit too light. Increased awareness. I would like to see him increase his awareness sometimes. He gets into his stance, and when he doesn't have anybody to block when he's in his pass sets, he'll look to his left, and he won't look back to his right fast enough, and next thing you know, somebody's coming in through that A-gap, and he's not ready to pick him up, give him a nudge, something, disrupt the timing of their blitz, any of that. And so I think he needs to be more aware. Head here, head on a swivel a little bit more, and increase his awareness so that guys don't sneak in through that A-gap and get into the quarterback space and make it tough on him. You also look at the biggest concern for me is his injury. He tore a ligament in his knee in October, missed the remainder of the season at USC, was a huge part of that offensive line. And when he went down, so did that USC season. The protection started to break down. They really struggled when Max Turk, who to me was the leader of that offensive line, went down. So I think that's something that I'm going to definitely be aware of with him, is how does he respond coming back off of that knee injury, because everyone operates differently coming off of knee injury, major knee surgery. And so we'll see how Max Turk does coming off of that surgery. If he comes back and he's the player that he was before the injury, then you've got yourself a steal in the third round. But I can't say that, can't confirm nor deny what he's going to be coming off of that injury. So because of that, in the third round, 66th pick overall, USC center Max Turk for me is a double right now. This could easily morph into a triple, but right now I'm not comfortable making that turn to third base because of the injury that he's coming off of. Don't know how he's going to play. Normally, with these types of injuries, guys respond well, come back stronger than ever, and perform at a very high level. But I don't want to make any assumptions. That's a major injury. We'll see how he does. And he's looking to add some weight. So all of this stuff happening all at once. We'll see how Max Turk responds. But right now, this is a really good pickup for the San Diego Chargers in the third round. You move on to the fourth round, 102nd pick overall. Linebacker out of the Ohio State University, Joshua Perry is the selection. This is a guy that I was intrigued with at the combine. Couldn't wait to turn on the tape to see what this guy was all about, because to me, he's a throwback linebacker in terms of size. At 6'4", 254 pounds, you don't see guys that size coming into the league very often anymore. And so he's a big, well-built athlete. You look at him, and his body type is 6'4", 250. It's a big, thick framed guy that carries it well. He's not one of these guys that's like Reggie Ragland, where you're like, hey man, you look like you're a little out of shape, bro. This guy is well put together. He's lean, he's big, he's thick, he's physical. All of those traits you look for in a big, husky, thick linebacker, you get it here in Joshua Perry. Physical defender is the next pro. He will take on blocks. That was one of the things that jumped off the screen at me with Joshua Perry early on in the process was, wow, this guy will come up, stick his nose in the chest of an offensive lineman, be physical, be stout at the point of attack. Those are all things that he does. You look at his length. He has great length. That's the next pro. And I talked about him being 6'4", and with that 6'4" height comes some long limbs that allow him to stretch out his arms, which allow him to be stout at the point of attack, which allows him to stack and shed, which are also pros for him. So his length also helps him in the run game, especially when he engages with an offensive lineman. He's able to extend those arms and then disengage and get to the ball carrier. So a lot is there with that size that I talked about early on in the process with Joshua Perry. Really solid tackler. Okay, this is a guy that when I watched him on tape, nothing flashy here, but he's always around the football, dragging the ball carrier down, man. I really like his hustle, and that's another one of his pros. High motor, man. This guy, I saw so many plays that got by him, and he was the one that made the tackle. A play would get into the secondary, guess who would track the guy down from behind and get him on the ground? Joshua Perry. A play would get right, other side of the field, he tracks it backside, goes and makes the tackle. He's the guy that shoestring tackles. He's the guy that will come up, physical form, wrap tackle. He's that type of football player that's going to get the ball carrier down some way, somehow. Really like his ability to flow to the football and get ball carriers on the ground. He can drop into coverage. Not the best in coverage, little stiff out of space, but he can drop into coverage. He's a guy that you can leave on the field all 3 downs and not feel bad about doing so. So there's a lot of value here in the 4th round in linebacker Joshua Perry. You move on to his cons, however. Stiff in space, and I just talked about that, kind of alluded to that, of him being stiff in space in coverage, but he's not only stiff in coverage, he's also stiff when he goes to make tackles and when he's blitzing and all of those things. He's not a guy with a lot of wiggle. He's not going to make you miss as a blocker and avoid you and get into the backfield and make a play. That's not his game. He's very stiff. He at 6'4", 254 pounds, he looks like he's 6'4", 254 pounds when he's out in space, especially when he's dropping into coverages and he's looking to get a ball carrier down. If that ball carrier is shifty at all, you can make Joshua Perry miss, because he's not a guy that adjusts well to movement, and he's a very stiff defender out in space. Not a true difference maker. That's the biggest con for me, is when I watch Joshua Perry on tape, I'm looking for this guy to truly make a play, make an impact on the game. Okay, make an impact, have some type of difference that you're making in the game. A play that's made, whether it's a sack or a forced fumble or an interception or a tackle for loss. Do something that's impactful towards the game. To me, he's just a guy out there. He's just a defender. Someone that you can trust to do his job. He's somewhat of a robot to me. If you say, hey, Joshua, I need you in the A gap. Joshua Perry's in the A gap. Hey, Joshua, I need you mugging the B gap. He's mugging the B gap. Hey, Joshua, I need you to make this tackle 3 yards up the field. He'll make the tackle 3 yards up the field. But he's not a difference maker. He's not someone that's going to shoot the gap, get in the backfield, and get a 4-yard tackle for loss. He's not a guy that's going to blitz and make that guard miss, give him a swim or a rip move, get up the field, get in the backfield, make a tackle on the quarterback and get a sack. Or hit the quarterback as he's throwing the football, forcing it to come out funky and getting picked off. He doesn't make any plays. To me, he lacks playmaking ability. He's just a guy. So I don't feel like he's a true difference maker. Hopefully I'm wrong, but what I watched on tape and consistently seeing him play, I didn't see a guy that played and made plays. So I don't think he's a true difference maker. So in the 4th round, 102nd pick overall, Ohio State linebacker Joshua Perry, for me, is a double off the wall. It's a stand-up double, but I don't think this is a guy that's going to come in and move the needle. I like his traits. I like his size. I like his ability to be tough and physical. He's going to help you stop the run for sure, because he's the guy that will fill some gaps in, make it tough to have space to run. He's the guy that's going to get ball carriers on the ground. Just don't see him making enough impactful plays to be a guy that stands out on your defense. But you move on to the 5th round, 175th pick overall, Akron linebacker Jatavis Brown is the selection. And this is a guy that I do feel like is a true difference maker and a playmaker. Let's talk about Jatavis Brown and what he brings to the table. 5'11", 227 pounds. And at that size, this was the guy that got snubbed at the combine, was not invited. I thought he was a shoo-in to be invited because of his production throughout his collegiate career, but he was not invited despite making some plays and doing some things. He wasn't even at the Senior Bowl. So there were a number of things that I thought Jatavis Brown could use as ammunition moving forward, and I think that's something you're going to get from this guy. Tremendous athlete, though, is the first thing we're going to talk about. 4'4", 240 guy. This guy can absolutely fly. You can see it on tape when you turn it on. This guy's going sideline to sideline, which is the next pro, that he can hit from one sideline to the other sideline, and it is effortless. This guy's flying all around the football field. And now, at 5'11", 227, you're thinking, okay, he's one of these Darren Lee type guys, one of these, finesse linebackers that's not really trying to come up and hit you in your mouth. Au contraire, my friend. This is a guy that is a physical thumper. And this is where he separates himself from a lot of these other smallish linebackers. 33 reps of 2 1/4. This guy is a physical thumper. He will come up, he will stick his helmet in your chest, he will come up, hit you in your mouth, and be physical with ball carriers. You see it time and time again on tape. This dude is not messing around. It's not a game. Jatavis Brown is trying to take somebody's head off at 5'11", 227, and he played at 222 when he was at Akron, so it's not a game with Jatavis Brown, okay? You can tell that this guy's been told throughout his life, he's not big enough, you're not big enough, you can't do this because you're not big enough, and so he's playing with that chip on his shoulder. You can tell when you watch him on tape. That's the next pro. Plays with aggression, plays with a chip on his shoulder. You see it. There is no doubt about it that he's having waterboard moments on the field where he's like, no, I'm big enough. No, I'm big enough. I can play this game. You can see that in his head, there's a lot of pain and struggle there, and he's about to take it out on the ball carrier, okay? And Jatavis Brown is running through cats. No, you're small. Jatavis Brown is not playing on the football field, and I love the fact that he plays with that aggression and brings that chip on his shoulder each and every single snap. You get this out of him. He's a relentless football player. Stacks and sheds, okay? That's another one of his traits. He's one of these guys, again, at 5'11", 227, probably not going to have the longest arms, not going to be able to extend that, not going to be able to beat a lot of big physical offensive linemen. Well, what he will do is he will slip, he will avoid, he will take on blockers, he will shed them. So, sometimes he may be out physical and pushed out of a play, but when he is able to get his ground and stand up, again, 33 reps at 2 1/4, this guy's no slouch. He can and will get up under the pads of a blocker, discard, get to the football carrier. So this is a guy that can and will stack and shed, finds the football. That's another one of those traits where you either have it or you don't. One of these guys that he just has a knack for finding the football. It doesn't really matter where it is. Football could be going to the weak side. He's on the strong side. He's going to find the football. Football could be on the strong side. He could be on the weak side. He's going to find the football. He's just a guy that somehow, some way flows and finds the football. Flows to the football, gets there, makes a play, whether it's a tackle or he's trying to make an interception. He's doing something to try and impact the play. Outstanding tackler is the next pro. This is a guy that he gets his man on the ground generally. 9 times out of 10, if Jatavis Brown is close by, that ball carrier is going down. He's got a knack for getting guys on the ground, whether it's a shoestring tackle or he absolutely obliterates a guy with the football. Either way, that player most likely is going to find the dirt because Jatavis Brown is going to bring him down on the play. Blitzing menace is the next pro. Here's a guy that, to me, the best play, the best example of Jatavis Brown, the blitzer, is against Pitt in 2015. This is a phenomenal play, and these are the type of plays that you don't get out of Joshua Perry. When I say he's not a difference maker, you don't get plays like this. So he's mugging a gap, is Jatavis Brown. At the snap, they snap the football, and his quickness and explosion shows out and shows through. He runs right past the guard and the tackle. They can't get a hand on him. It's a fake handoff. He bypasses the running back who tries to chip him, makes him miss. Before the quarterback can even turn around and get set, Jatavis Brown is all in his grill, smashes him, football comes out. Luckily enough for Pitt, the ball landed right next to the quarterback, who was able to kind of slide it back against his leg. But it was a forced fumble on a play where it was a play action fake that was supposed to be set up and he was supposed to have time, was that Pitt quarterback. And Billy Boytek didn't even have a chance to turn around, and before Jatavis Brown was all in his chest, blazing him, and the football was out. That's the kind of football player you're getting. That's the kind of blitzing ability Jatavis Brown, to not only time it up perfectly, but to bypass two offensive linemen and a running back on his way to the quarterback. He is a true difference maker. He can play over the slot, and I think that's going to be his calling card at the next level, is the ability to come onto the field in nickel situations and run with tight ends, run with running backs, even some receivers. I think he's got, I just told you the guy's running a 4-4-2, so he can run with just about anybody on the football field. And so he's going to see a lot of action in some nickel sets, and he's going to really be a fixture on third down situations. And I think he's going to somehow, some way work his way onto the field in first and second down situations as well. This guy's just too good to keep off of the football field. Special teams value as well. He's a guy that's going to come in, play every coverage, every team that you have. And so there's a lot here with Jatavis Brown that I am attracted to in terms of his skill set and his ability to play the game of football. You go to his cons, he can be over aggressive. He's a guy, I just told you, this guy's high energy. He's a very physical football player, but he's also extremely explosive and fast. And sometimes he can let those instincts take over, but they can also play against him. And there was a play, and I don't think this was necessarily his fault, but there's a dragging route. He's in zone coverage, and he's supposed to carry that route out and then fall. I want to believe he's supposed to fall into the flats if someone's over there. And he carries that dragging route all the way across the field. And there's like 4 defenders following this one drag route. And they run a concept where they've got a wheel route behind that drag route. Running back out of the backfield runs a wheel route up the sideline. And there is nobody, and I mean nobody. I think the safety dropped the ball here. I think Jatavis Brown and his drops dropped the ball on this particular play, no pun intended. And so that receiver, that running back was wide open out of the backfield, picked up a huge gain. And I think those are some things that you can get with him sometimes, where he might sniff out run on play action fake and come up 2 or 3 steps, and all of a sudden that tight end is wide open behind him in coverage. So he can be over aggressive at times, but I would much rather have a player play with over aggressiveness than not have enough aggression when on the football field. The next con is probably the biggest con, which saw him get overlooked for the Combine and Senior Bowl, among other things, and that's his size and length. At 5'11", at the time he was 222, he's now 227. He's not a big guy. He's not someone that's going to stand out, but I think those are all the qualities that make him who he is, because he's been told his entire life he's not big enough, because he's been told he can't get the job done, because there's a 6'2" guy that can do what you do, there's a 6'4" guy that can do the same things that you do, and so we're going to pass you over for the guy that may be slower, maybe a little bit longer, but I think these are all things that he uses as fueling his drive and his determination on the football field. And I think that's why he's going to be successful at the next level, because he's been passed over, he's been looked over his entire career. And I think he's going to use that on the football field. Last con is head on. He's no match for physical offensive linemen. So he does a great job of slipping blocks, does a really good job of getting off of blocks when the ball carrier comes his way. But when you see it sometimes, when he's head on with an offensive lineman, a pulling guard, or a tackle's able to double team and get to that second level, and Jatavis Brown is out there and they're able to lock onto him and really get him good head on. Jatavis Brown is no match for a guy that's 313 pounds, coming at him full head of steam with a good base that's able to lock in on him. So that's something that he's going to have to avoid, especially if he's on the field in earlier downs where teams are looking to run the football. So there's a lot to like here, though. Despite all of that, this is, to me, one of the best picks in this entire draft, that I'm the most excited about for this Chargers football team. In the 5th round, 175th overall selection, Akron linebacker Jatavis Brown, for me, is a triple. Love what he brings to the table. I'm anxious to see how they utilize him and what sets does he find in the football field, because I expect him to have an impact, not only to make this roster in year one, but also I expect him to get on the field in year one and have a role for this team. They had a specific role in mind, whether it's nickel linebacker or if they're looking to utilize this guy in a number of different ways. He is an athletic freak, and I think he can bring some things to the table that they currently lack in San Diego. You move on to the 6th round, 179th pick overall. The San Diego Chargers select Texas A&M punter Drew Kaiser. And so, look, anytime you select a punter, you know, I'm a little wary, but this is the 6th round. I told you, I don't mind a punter in the 6th or 7th round. As long as you're not Tampa Bay bucking me, where you're trading up in the 2nd round to get you a kicker, I'm all for it. So, this is a situation where they look at Mike Cyphers and you're trying to cut bait, trying to save some salary cap, and maybe this is an opportunity for them to have a guy come in. If he performs well in camp, he'll steal that job away, be a cheaper option, and give them a little bit of flexibility moving forward. So I think that's what the thought process was here with this selection. His pros, he's got a big leg, man. This guy can stroke it. So that's something that Mike Cyphers has done for years in San Diego, and he might be able to come in and do the same. Big leg, can kick it a ton, and so I think that's something that we're intrigued with. He can coffin kick, and that's a lost art in this league. You don't see punters coffin kicking anymore. The new trend is kicking a football and having it have backward spin, and so he's a guy that can directionally kick the football in the corner, have it go out of bounds at the 5-yard line, have it go out of bounds without the returner actually getting a chance to catch it at the 7-yard line. That's a lost art. You know, guys used to do that back in the day. Jeff Fiegels and those type of guys would catch the football, turn their body directly towards the sideline and boot that thing right out of bounds. So it would negate a big special teams punt returner in football games and not give them chances to get their hands on the football. And I think Drew Kaiser can do that. So that's something else I think he brings to the table. Can get off an effective kick quickly. There are a number of times that Texas A&M backed up in their own end zone, not a lot of space. He would get off a really quality kick in those situations, and so that's something that you can't really understate, because you know pressure does bust pipes sometimes in the NFL, and we'll talk about that same thing with Drew Kaiser here in a second. But those are all his pros. His cons, there's some line drive kicks in there that I wasn't comfortable with, and I saw it too many times, where you're giving some elite returners some opportunities with some space to get their hands on the football and really get a chance to get into their full-out sprint and get some head of steam up the field before your blockers even get, or excuse me, your return men even get down there, and your gunners and all those guys get a chance to make a play. So that's something he's going to have to clean up. Can't have these line drive kicks with some of these dangerous return men in this league. Got to be able to get some hang time on these kicks and give your guys a chance to get down there and either force a fair catch or make a tackle. Lacks reverse spin, and I just was talking about how that's the new trend in the league, how guys are kicking the football on its nose and having that reverse spin, and you kick it down at the 2-yard line and it either dies right there or it reverses its spin back to the 5 or the 6-yard line where it's going to be down. He doesn't really have that. Now, I've seen him do it before, so I know he has that in his arsenal, but he lacks consistency with it. A lot more times than not, he'll just boom the football, it'll hit the ground, and it'll trickle right into the end zone. What good is a kick if you kick it 70 yards, but you kick it into the end zone? I mean, 70 yards is great, but if I only needed a 40-yard kick, what good are you doing, really? You know, when the net is only 33 yards. You boomed it 55 yards, but there's only a net of 33 yards. You didn't do me any good there. Need you to keep the football out of the end zone on touchbacks. I need him to have a better reverse spin. And when he's rushed, I talked about him being able to get effective kicks off. He will shank it though. I did see him shank a couple of kicks where he got a little nervous, a little pressure on him, and ball came right off the side of his foot again. He's going to have to wrestle this job away. They're not giving him this job. They would love to replace Mike Cyphers and his salary. But again, I'm not giving you this job. If you don't come into camp and win this job, you won't make this team. You're a 6th-round pick. You are expendable. So we'll see if Drew Kaiser can come in and win this job. And when you spend a 6th-round pick on a kicker, you're looking for this guy to make your roster. So we'll see if Drew Kaiser can come in and wrestle this job away from me. He's a double in the 6th round. You know, he's a kicker. I mean, what more can I say? And not even one that puts points on the board. He's a punter. So, you know, I'm a little wary of the selection. But again, 6th round, I don't have a problem with the Chargers making that selection. You go to the second 6th round selection, 198th pick overall, Wisconsin fullback Derek Watt. 6'2", 236-pound fullback. He's physical, not afraid to put a hat on a head. He will go up and he will lay into a defensive lineman, a linebacker, whomever. Not afraid to put his hat on somebody else's and really be physical in that manner. Bloodlines. I think the next 2 pros are going to be the reason why he's even selected. One is bloodlines. His brother is J.J. Watt, so that counts for something. If they think to themselves, his brother's J.J. Watt, this guy's got to be a badass. His brother's a badass. He's probably got a little bit of that badass in him as well because it's in his genes. So that's part of the reason he gets drafted here. But the even bigger reason that he's selected is the next pro. Familiarity. Here's a guy that blocked for Melvin Gordon III in college at Wisconsin for a number of years. And so I think they saw his struggles last year, some of it due to health, some of it due to the poor blocking up front. That offensive line was in flux last year. A lot of turnover and change, a lot of injuries, so there wasn't any continuity there. But also, you lacked a blocking tight end, which you now have in Hunter Henry, and you didn't have a fullback that was in front of him that could block consistently, and he didn't trust a lot of what was going on last year. And they want to jumpstart Melvin Gordon III. They spent a first round pick on him. They even traded up to secure his services. They want this pick to pan out. And so I think they went out and got a guy that he's familiar with, that he's used to running behind, in Derek Watt. So I think that's the biggest reason why this guy is now a San Diego Charger in the 6th round. And his last pro is he can catch the football. Don't let his size fool you, and don't let him being a meathead fool you. This guy can slip into the flat and catch the football, and so that's something else that he brings to the table as an athlete. You go to his cons. He doesn't sustain blocks, and that's the thing that really frustrates me with him. Is he's physical, he'll go put a hat on the head, but he didn't sustain the block. What good is a block if you're not going to hold on to that guy and make sure that he doesn't make a play? You can put a hat on the head, but guess what? If the ball carrier comes to get by you and you let that guy go, guess what? He's still going to get tackled. And so he frustrates me because he'll go make contact with somebody and then disengage, and next thing you know, the guy that he blocked is making a play. He does not sustain his blocks. To me, that is very, very frustrating. Not a dominant lead blocker either. And so these are all things that I watch consistently, and I'm saying to myself, I'm just not feeling Derek Watt here because I want to see this guy blow somebody up. I want to see him lead Melvin Gordon and I went back and watched 2014 tape, not 2015, even though I did take a look at 2 games in 2015 from him. I more so was concerned with 2014 because that's what they're going to ask him to do in San Diego, is be a lead blocker for Melvin Gordon III. I wanted to see how Melvin Gordon ran off of his blocks. I'm going to tell you what Melvin Gordon, most of his successful runs came away from Derek Watt, or when he wasn't even on the field. So I'm not really sure if I'm buying this whole Derek Watt's going to come in and help Melvin Gordon III run the football more effectively, because I thought Derek Watt wasn't that impactful as a fullback. To be honest, special teams value is the last con. It's really more of a question. Does he have special teams value? Is he a guy that can get out there and be on every single team and help you? Because he's going to have to do that if he's going to make this roster. I don't think him just being a fullback is going to be enough to get him to make this roster. He's going to have to play every special team and do it effectively to help solidify his place on this San Diego Chargers roster. But in the 6th round, 198th pick overall, Wisconsin fullback Derek Watt for me is a single. I was not impressed with this guy. Wasn't impressed with what he brings to the table. He may be a much better blocker than I'm giving him credit for. He may be a much better athlete and catch the football a little bit better than I'm giving him credit for, but I just wasn't wowed by any one thing that he did, and I didn't see him being a dominant lead blocker. I didn't see him being a Lorenzo Neal, just stonewalling guys and paving the way for his running back. So I'm not sure that he's the guy that's going to come in and change the game for you in San Diego at the fullback position. I'm just not sold. And so I need him to go out and sell me on the fact that he belongs to make this San Diego Chargers roster. And right now, I'm not buying what he's selling. You go to the 7th round, 224th pick, Michigan State offensive guard Donovan Clark is the last selection in this Chargers draft. 6'4", 315 pounds, tough, physical grunt work guy. Not flashy, not pretty. He's the guy that does all the dirty work in the trenches, will pull, will go out, play some guard, will play some tackle, did both of those things at Michigan State, was a key for them on that offensive line. He did a lot of things for them, allowed them to have some flexibility on that offensive line. He's just a tough, physical grunt work guy. Does a really good job sustaining blocks. I talked about Derek Watt not sustaining blocks. Well, that's not a problem for Donovan Clark. He does a really good job of staying on the guy that he blocked initially, whether that guy tries to spin or he's trying some kind of secondary move. Donovan Clark's not going for it. He's going to stay on that block and make sure that that running back or whomever has the space and ability to run off of the block that he set in the first place. Solid movement skills. I talked about him moving from guard to tackle on a consistent basis at Michigan State. He's a guy that also kicked out, man. He pulled quite a bit. He was that lead blocker a lot of times on those plays that got outside on the edge. He was the guy out there leading the way as a pulling guard. So a lot of different things you get from Donovan Clark. And I thought he actually moved well for a guy that was 6'4", 315 pounds. Versatile. I just talked about him playing right guard, right tackle, doing it on a consistent basis. He would even kick over and be somewhat of a tight end on an unbalanced line sometimes next to Jack Conklin on the left side. So they would move him around at Michigan State. So he provides them with a little bit of versatility, but his cons to me outweigh the pros. Not quick enough to mirror elite competition. And I'll go ahead and lump this last con in there because to me this is the most impactful one, is he was outmatched versus Alabama in that playoff game on New Year's Day. He was thoroughly whipped in that game. He got his ass handed to him in that football game, as most of the offensive linemen for the Michigan State Spartans did that night, as they got trounced in that game. And he didn't do his job that night. He struggled at tackle. He struggled at guard. He did not have a good football game. He also struggled at times versus Ohio State. And to me, you look at Alabama, you look at Ohio State, you look at how many players both of those colleges sent to the NFL and how they routinely send a bunch of players in that front seven to the NFL. Those are the type of athletes and players you're going to be dealing with on a consistent basis at the next level. If you can't handle that kind of competition, you won't last in this league. And I saw Donovan Clark struggling consistently with elite football players. But guess what you're getting at the next level? You're getting the best of the best. That's what's in the National Football League. And so I think Donovan Clark has a long way to go. His versatility may win him out on this roster. We'll see, because he can play multiple positions. And you need guys that can be swing guards and swing tackles. I don't know. I doubt seriously that he can play either tackle position at the next level, because every time he was put out on an island against elite guys like Joey Bosa, he looked foolish out there. So I think if he's going to make this team, it's going to be because he can play both guard positions and may even be able to kick inside and play some center at the next level. But I think they're just taking a flyer on a guy in the 7th round, giving him an opportunity. If he makes the most of it, he may make this roster. If he doesn't, they just say, hey, 7th round pick, oh well, they move on. In the 7th round, 224th pick overall, Michigan State guard Donovan Clark is another single. Was not blown away by any one trait that he had. I think he's a solid football player, but he doesn't move the needle for me at all. So that's the Chargers 2016 NFL Draft. Let's review their grades quickly, give them a grade, and move on to the next team in the process. First round, Joey Bosa, home run. Second round, Hunter Henry, tight end out of Arkansas, another home run. Third round, Max Turk, double. Fourth round, Joshua Perry, linebacker out of the Ohio State University, double. Fifth round, Jatavis Brown, Akron, linebacker, triple. Sixth round, punter Drew Kaiser, double. In the 6th round again, you have fullback Derek Watt out of Wisconsin. He's a single, as well as Michigan State guard Donovan Clark in the 7th round. You add all of those things up, you got 2 home runs, a triple, and 3 doubles, which nets you 1 double bonus, plus 2 singles equals 21 points for the Chargers in this draft. Divided by 8 selections, you get a 2.63 draft for the Chargers. Not very impressive at the back end of this draft, but I love the Jatavis Brown selection as well as the first 2 picks. And I think Max Turk could be a sleeper in this draft for the Chargers when it's all said and done. But that's the San Diego Superchargers 2016 NFL Draft and their picks. Let's see who's going to be up next in the process in the 2016 NFL Draft Wrap-Up Series. If it happens in the National Football League, whether big or small, we cover it all here in the Lab Room. Come back and join me as I continue to break down anything and everything in the National Football League. Who's next? Y'all are going to determine that. I can't wait. Bart Scott, can't wait. See you next. There's plenty more where that came from. While you're here, subscribe to the channel. If you want more Louie T, be sure to follow me on Twitter at In The Lab Room, or you can like the Facebook page at In The Lab Room. That's In The Lab Room on Facebook and at In The Lab Room on Twitter. Don't forget, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so.